All right, welcome back to another episode of the Psychopedia Podcast. I'm your co-host, Hank Sinatra, here with my partner in true crime, throwing it way back.
Investigators Later, I love it.
I don't know why I would ever depart from that perfect introduction.
It's apropos of
everything.
I almost said
everything.
two.
Partner in true crime.
Exactly. Brilliant.
You know what? I get ahead of myself. I start thinking too hard. I start questioning everything. My reality falls apart. I dismantle, and then I meet an African guy, and my whole life falls apart.
Your nose separates from your face. It's a whole thing.
It is a whole thing. And then I fall in love with a rock. So.
Well, no one sits like this rock sits.
Yeah, you rock.
Right.
The rock just sits and is, and that's what we need.
Exactly. Amen.
I cannot believe we still haven't watched that movie.
It's not okay. We're going off of seeing this movie together 20 years ago, and we have as much excitement and oomph as we did 20 years ago. Can you imagine if we rewatched it?
How many times did you watch it back then?
I lost count. I mean, it was on repeat.
Yeah, I watched it like 100 times. I don't even know, probably more.
I've only really done that with two movies. That one and Almost Famous.
Yeah, you like that one.
Oh, I love it.
Wait till you see A Star is Born.
Nope. Not going there. Not doing it. I'm not. And you know what? When I was coming back from Miami, I finally had headphones I did not have going there. So I was like, I'm going to watch a movie because I can. And A Star is Born was there. And I was like, I should just do it. I should just rip the Band-Aid and do it. And then I was like, no, I'm not a sadist.
So, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Yes. And if you are listening for the first time, welcome to you as well. If you're listening for the 100th time, welcome home.
Freak.
Little freak. Psychopath. Glad to have you.
So I just want to say one thing, Psychopath.
Please.
I think I'm going to start a series, like a little video series on Instagram. Am I a psychopath? And I'm just going to make little videos of these things that I do in my life and gauge how psychopathic
Fantastic.
I am.
The ideas do not stop flowing.
No. They get more mental, though, as I go.
It's good. And the more series you can establish with content that works for people and for you mainly, gets your creative juices flowing, then go for it.
All right. I'm going to try it. So by the way, on that note, peoples, check out our Instagram pages.
Yeah.
Right? So it's Psychopedia Pod, Investigators Later, Tank Sinatra, and see what we're up to. Because we do different things over there than we do, obviously, on the podcast.
Yes, we do. And if you're listening on Spotify or Apple or YouTube, please just do a little favor to us and leave us a review, subscribe. Subscribing is huge. It helps us so much. It is the single best way to support us is to subscribe to the podcast. And it costs nothing and it's free and you can always unsubscribe. Leave a little comment on Spotify or YouTube. We like those too, or a review on Apple. And if you're not getting enough of what you already love here, boy, do I got a website to tell you about.
Tell them all about it, Tank.
Patreon.com/psychopediapod, where you get more episodes than you get here, and all the episodes are ad-free on Patreon. So if you're over skipping through the ads, just head on over there. It's like $5 a month, you know?
Yeah.
What do you got to lose?
If you can swing it. If not, we love you wherever we can have you.
Exactly. On that note, in that vein, along those same lines, how many other ways can I say this? I'm going to read off a couple of Patreon names, one of which is apropos of fucking life right now.
All right, let's hear it.
This one is, I imagine, for you. Do you know the Muffin Man?
The Muffin Man?
The Muffin Man.
I do indeed.
Does Cash know the Muffin Man?
He is the Muffin Man.
The Big Titty Goth Semen Demon? Welcome to our family over on Patreon, the Big Titty Goth Semen Demon. Emily Dunkley.
Hi, Emily.
Which just reminds me of Studio Donkey. Elizabeth Ruprecht, I think.
Hey, Liz.
This one's for me. Good Kid, Mad Criminal.
Nice.
It's a take on Good Kid, Mad City, obviously. Sabrina Walker, tell Paul we said hello. How Am I Not Myself?
Very good.
Which is it's just floating out there. It was just there. And this one is, I'm going to butcher it. So just beware. Caitriona O'Neill. That's not right. It's an Irish name. It's got fucking backwards things on the eyes and everything. Caitriona, but there's like those backwards apostrophes on top of the eyes. I don't know what that does to a letter. I have no idea. So it's probably it's probably not Kaitriona, it's probably Korsha.
Right.
Or something.
Exactly. Yeah, but you know what? You swung at it. I appreciate that.
Yep. And then last not least, I almost thought I said, this is terrible. Last, not yeast. And the Patreon name is Resolved Vagina Issues.
No, that's not that.
I know, but I have no idea. Can you tell me what Resolved Vagina Issues
that
means?
was on the Korean Cannibal Clan episode. So they were
Okay.
like incels, essentially. And they had a doctrine that they followed. They had like principles that they followed. Ridiculous to even call it that. And one of it was do not trust women. So at some point in the episode, I said something like these little boys with their vagina issues. Their unresolved vagina issues.
Unresolved vagina issues. Nice.
Yeah. So nice one there.
Very good. All right. Well, Slater, guess what?
What?
I want to hear about this week's case.
Oh, best part of my week. Right here, right now.
So without any further Korsha, let's get into this week's episode.
Picture this. 23 days, not measured by sunrises or calendar pages, but by every harrowing second clawing across your soul. 552 hours, 33,120 minutes. For most people, that kind of time passes unnoticed, swallowed by errands, commutes, forgettable conversations, whatever. But for one young woman named Anna Ecklund, 23 days stretched into a slow, merciless disintegration of her mind, her body, and everything she once believed was hers to control until the threads of her humanity were ripped apart.
Oh my God.
In the beginning, there were simply flickers, moments when the world seemed to tilt, when the voice in her head wasn't hers anymore. And then the flickers stayed. Imagine knowing you're still alive, but your body no longer listens. Your thoughts are no longer your own. Imagine feeling something ancient and merciless bleeding into you, moment by moment, hollowing you out until you no longer know where you end and it begins. Every thought invaded, every breath stolen, every scream swallowed by something that wore your face like a mask. You know you're still inside, but you're locked away, screaming behind your own eyes. Anna Ecklund didn't have to imagine this slow-motion horror. She endured it. She suffered it in 1928 when she became the unwilling host to a force so dark, so consuming that time itself seemed to stretch and twist under its weight. Because Anna Ecklund was allegedly possessed by multiple demons and endured 23 days of relentless exorcism that nearly destroyed her and everyone who dared stand between her and the darkness. This is the case of Anna Ecklund, whose case is widely regarded as one of the most documented possessions of the 20th century.
Okay, so I thought she was in solitary confinement.
Okay, well, in a sense
But
she was.
she was overtaken by demons.
Which in a sense isolated her.
From reality.
Correct.
23 days.
23 days. They weren't consecutive days, which is interesting, which is something I learned in doing the research for this episode. Exorcisms generally are not one long session.
Okay.
Okay, and they're usually more than one. But anyway, we're going to get into all of that. But like I said, this particular case is regarded as one of the most documented possessions of the 20th century. And yet, interestingly and frustratingly, the story of Anna Ecklund isn't exactly easy to track down, which is bizarre as hell. Pun intended, considering it's regarded as the most famous exorcism case in U.S. history. Even though it earned a feature in Time magazine in 1936, and even though extensive medical, religious, and eyewitness accounts offer a chilling glimpse into evil made flesh, it's still a story shrouded in shadows, half whispered and half forgotten. But not here, not today.
No, we're going to bring her back.
That's right, we're going to get into it. There are several conflicting accounts of the entire ordeal, and very few books have been published about it. That said, one of the primary sources that I used in my research, which was written 80 years ago and largely considered the definitive account, is a book called Begone Satan. Originally written in German by a priest named Father Karl Vogel, it was based on interviews with one of the priests who actually assisted the lead priest during her exorcism. The book was later translated into English in 1973 by Benedictine Reverend Celestine Kapsner. but it's regarded as uncorrupted due to its careful, faithful translation. All right, so that's what I use as a primary source here. But other than that, information was kind of limited. The history of this book is that it started out as actually a lengthy pamphlet, a cautionary tale of sorts initially distributed in seminaries across the U.S., and its purpose was to educate priests about the destructive forces of the devil, particularly through the process of possession. Anyway, with all of that said, I just wanted to mention that that's what I use as a primary source, and it's considered a pretty accurate reflection of what allegedly went down.
Yeah, and I would just like to interject here and say that we said it was 1928, right?
Yeah.
There's this idea that people in the past were less intelligent than we are now, and they were more susceptible to falling for stuff. It's just not true. They weren't less intelligent. They knew less. They had less knowledge, but their problem solving, their ability to decipher true from false was the same.
Yeah.
Just the same way it is today. You got some Anna Ecklunds out there today as well.
Well,
It's
this
no different.
is hinged on faith, and faith is timeless.
Yeah.
Right? So,
But there's this idea that people back when Jesus was alive were just like fucking
simple-minded
Cro-Magnon idiots who would believe anything. It's like, no, they killed him. So like there was plenty of people who didn't believe what he was saying. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No,
Okay.
I hear what you're saying. You're saying. So let's get into the case now. Anna Ecklund is actually believed to have been born as Emma Schmidt on March 23rd, 1882 in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Few facts about her early life are known, which isn't surprising considering that even just her name remains a point of uncertainty. She's been referred to as Anna Ecklund, Emma Schmidt, Anna Schmidt, Mary X, and in some contemporary reports simply as, quote-unquote, a certain woman. Despite the dramatic nature of her story, Anna's identity, like many other details, was obscured following the unbelievable events that occurred in 1928. This concealment was likely a measure of protection meant to shield her from a public that might have reacted with fear or suspicion towards someone with such a bizarre and potentially demon-centric history. Whatever the reason, her name is even ambiguous. But we're going to refer to her as Anna Ecklund, because that is just by and large how I remember her being referred to as, okay?
Demon-centric.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Rhythmless. Yeah.
Anna's early life was marked by a profound sense of loss. Her mother, whose name also remains unknown, either passed away or abandoned the family when Anna was very young, likely before she even turned 10. This left Anna to be raised solely by her piece of shit father, Jacob. Despite the absence of her mother, or perhaps because of it, Anna was a deeply pious and devout child, finding genuine joy in the religious rituals and ceremonies of Catholicism. She attended church several times a week, fully immersed in the sacraments and spiritual practices, and seemed to really thrive in the devotion that she held toward her faith. But tragically, the peace that Anna found in her faith stood in brutal contrast to the turmoil and cruelty that awaited her at home. Jacob, her father, was a belligerent alcoholic who was openly hostile toward Anna's religious practices and towards Anna herself. He mocked not only Anna, but the church itself, ridiculing its ministers and belittling Anna's every attempt at spiritual growth. In fact, it's possible that Jacob was a member of the American Protective Association, which was a secret anti-Catholic organization established in 1887 by members of the Protestant church in the Midwest. By all accounts, Anna was a bright girl, fluent in English, German, and had a rudimentary knowledge of Latin as well. However, her formal education was limited, having never progressed beyond elementary school. This lack of opportunity for intellectual growth was compounded by the troubling dynamics at home. While the Ecklund family history is sparse, as I've mentioned now a couple of times, it's widely believed that Jacob's actions cast a dark shadow over Anna's life and influenced her path in ways that would later become undeniable. In terms of his actions, well, for one thing, Jacob had taken a mistress named Mina while Anna's mother was still in the picture, and Mina was either Jacob's blood sister, ew, or stepsister by marriage, also ill. Ew.
Sorry, folks. She's under attack by pollen.
I can't breathe. Moreover, Mina had a notorious reputation for being a witch who openly practiced black magic. And it was believed, even by the main priest who later participated in Anna's exorcism, that Mina used certain herbs to poison Anna through her food. She
yes.
also allegedly did which of the following things? Pop quiz.
Which? Which of these two? Which?
Ooh. A, slipped urine-soaked fragments of communion wafers.
Hey. You didn't ask me the question.
I did. I said she also allegedly did which you made a fucking joke about, of the following things.
You know what? I was overtaken by a demon there for a second.
Okay.
I apologize.
Was it
You're
Balthazar?
Right. Yeah, he was fucking herky-jerking all
You're
in
going to
my
have
body.
to prove it, and you're going to have to bust a move at some point. There he goes. He's shimmying, folks. Okay.
No rhythm.
None. Okay, so Mina did which of the following things?
Okay.
A, slipped urine-soaked fragments of communion wafers into Anna's meals. B, whispered blasphemies into Anna's ear while she slept so that they would marinate in her subconscious like evil crockpot stew. C, placed multiple curses upon Anna that haunted her well into adulthood and wound up nearly killing her.
So I would just like to say that you are beyond disgusting for coming up with A.
Oh, thank you so much. And you are correct. I came up with A.
I know. There's no way anybody would ever do that. And the fact that you did is really disturbing.
What else can I say except you're welcome?
Okay. Say sorry. She put curses on her.
Yeah, she did.
Yeah.
Allegedly.
Urine-soaked wafers in her food?
Yeah, doesn't that sound nasty?
Yeah.
You know what gave me the idea? My son was eating a Lorna Doone. And he dropped it in his juice, and it became soggy and disgusting.
Was he drinking piss?
No, but it just reminded me. I was like, I can take this somewhere.
Oh my! And that you went to a really interesting place.
Yeah, I took it somewhere
with a juice-soaked Lorna Doone.
Yeah.
Hello to the future patriot.
Yes. So she placed multiple curses upon Anna that haunted her well into adulthood. But without doubt, in terms of Jacob, the most damning accusation against him is the belief that he may have / likely sexually abused Anna when she was between the ages of 10 and 14. And it was into this devastating, abusive, traumatic, and toxic environment that Anna's faith would eventually be tested in unimaginable ways. Which got me thinking, is there a link between the trauma of sexual abuse and the experience of perceived possession? A dark intersection where stigma meets stigmata. Janet Lieberman Jacobs, who's an author and associate professor of women's studies at the University of Colorado Boulder, she examined how childhood victims of incestuous sexual abuse, especially those raised in religious Judeo-Christian environments, often frame their trauma through the lens of supernatural imagery. In many cases, memories of abuse are not just about a human perpetrator, but are reimagined through the figure of demons or devils rooted in religious culture. Jacobs explains that this demonization provides victims with a symbolic system, a ready-made language to process the horror that they endured. Within this framework, the terror, rage, and betrayal that they feel toward their abuser are transferred onto the culturally defined figures of evil, which allows victims to confront the violence without directly acknowledging the unbearable truth.
Unless the person who does the abusing is filled with evil on their own, and they impart that onto the person when they abuse them.
Yeah, but I think that's what I thought I found interesting potentially was that like intersection of, and then it's through this lens that their suffering gains meaning, for lack of a better way of saying it. The abuse becomes not just an isolated act of cruelty, but a cosmic battle between innocence and evil, anchored in the very faith traditions that shaped their early worldview. This isn't always the case. It was just a thought I had, and when I researched it, there was this actual study done.
I was just thinking about the fact that people feel like one label or explanation has to fit when really nobody knows what they're doing. But people who are more comfortable with a scientific, biological explanation tend to gravitate towards that. And people who are more faith-based go towards the other explanation. I feel like the truth is somewhere always in the middle with those two things.
But I think that it makes sense that, a child especially who's trying to process what they're going through, but they don't understand it. And I know this from experience. This is what I do professionally, right? Like, it's hard for them they don't understand what's happening to them, let alone have the vocabulary to even articulate what's happening to them. But what they do have knowledge of, in this case, we'll speak of Anna, is religion, is good and evil, is God and Satan. The point I'm planting, the seed I'm planting early on at this point in the case is that, because we get into this more later on, is that she potentially likely processed what she was going through the lens of her religion, which gave her comfort. Her father was evil. What was happening to her was demonic, because she had the vocabulary for that.
Yeah.
So again, in Anna's case, the trauma that she experienced perhaps began to manifest in perceived demonic possession.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was around the turn of the 20th century, when Anna was 14 years old, that a disturbing shift began to take place in her behavior, and the documentation of her life became more detailed at this point. Anna started missing church, an unsettling development for someone who had once thrived in the sacraments. When questioned, Anna explained that she could no longer bear the presence of religious symbolism, as a deep revulsion seemed to grip her, a physical resistance that created an invisible barrier that prevented her from being able to step inside of a church. Her mind, too, began to twist as she uttered disturbing, sexualized thoughts of unspeakable acts. That's just how it's referred to. None of the sources I came across spoke about what she was actually speaking about in terms of these sexualized thoughts, just that they were unspeakable. Words that no child her age should ever even know exists, let alone be speaking about. At the time, Anna's disturbing symptoms were almost exclusively interpreted through a supernatural lens, seen as clear evidence of demonic interference. What's shocking in retrospect is how no one thought to question a far more grounded, far more horrifying possibility that Anna wasn't fighting demons from beyond, but very real monsters in her own home. The idea that she might have been a victim of sexual abuse, a grim reality rather than a spiritual affliction, was never meaningfully explored. Instead, the signs of profound trauma were folded into the narrative of possession, allowing the true source of her suffering to remain hidden in plain sight. I also want to mention, if people believe in demonic possession, and anybody knows this case and they really believe that Anna was possessed by a demon, I do not mean to throw shade on that. I'm speaking, obviously, through the lens of my beliefs. And I think that what really happened here was a manifestation of what was actually happening to her versus an actual demonic possession. But if you believe, that's okay.
Well, like we've said before, like if this experience rewired her brain to be in an adrenaline-seeking state all the time because of the trauma, that's one thing. But just like the scientists who say the person has schizophrenia, that's a scientific explanation for it. There may be other explanations for it or other reasons or causes for it.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know. Everyone's just trying to figure it out and label it so they can move on and try and help somebody in the future if they see someone with the same characteristics. But I don't know. I don't believe any one thing. I think that, like I said, it's a combination of things. I don't claim to know anything.
Well, what we do know, sadly, is that approximately 1 in 6 boys and 1 in 4 girls are sexually abused before the age of 18, according to research conducted by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Yes, it's staggering.
That's a fucking lot.
It's staggering.
25%?
Yes. The signs of sexual abuse can vary widely depending on the child's age, emotional development, and the nature of the abuse. Factors like how often it happens, who's responsible, and what form it takes. And because this is something that I care about deeply, I just want to take a moment to walk you through some of the key warning signs because understanding them could mean the difference between silence and saving a life. So let's begin with the signs people reported seeing in Anna, okay? And that was showing knowledge of sexual behavior or acts beyond her developmental age. Other signs include the child is quieter or more distant than usual. The child is clingier than usual. There are unusual or new fears, sometimes around being touched, being alone, being with a particular person or in a particular place, difficulty concentrating or with memory, eating, sleeping, hygiene changes, regressive behavior such as bedwetting, sadly, is a big red flag. And also, I'm going to caveat this. Obviously, none of these things necessarily point to sexual abuse. So obviously, any of these things can be experienced without it being sexual abuse, but it could also be, right, it could be a red flag. Additional signs could be sexual themes in artwork or stories or play, excessive play with their own private body parts, self-harm, problems with friends, acting in behaviors. This is interesting. So we know what acting out behaviors are, like aggression, taunting, destructive behaviors, but then there's acting in behaviors, which is like withdrawing from family and friends, depression, that type of thing. So again, while these can certainly be signs and symptoms that may indicate anything else, it can also indicate sexual abuse. So it's important to, just kind of keep this on your radar. Before we move on, one last thing on this topic in the form of a pop quiz.
Very good. I'm ready.
What is the most common and widely recognized indicator of sexual abuse in children? A, eating, sleeping, or hygiene changes. B, sexualized behavior that doesn't fit the child's age. C, regressive behaviors such as bedwetting.
C?
No.
Fucking set me up for that. B.
Yes. And that is what Anna demonstrated.
That's really scary to think that some kid starts describing sex stuff at 6 years old. It's like, how the fuck do you know that? I guess you know how they know it. It's just, I can't even imagine.
Well, listen, it could be other things too, right? Like kids have tablets now at 6 years old. They could be seeing shit on YouTube or TikTok or whatever.
I wouldn't bet on that though.
No, this is why I took a few minutes here to talk about this, because it may not be nothing. All of that said, in 1908, Anna's behavior was believed to have been a result of demonic possession. Therefore, a German Capuchin monk and ordained priest assigned to perform missions in Marathon, Wisconsin, named Father Theophilus Reisinger, was called to perform Anna's very first exorcism. Now, a few things to note about Father Theophilus. First of all, I'm nailing the pronunciation of his name. That's first of all.
First things first.
Yes. He was an extremely intelligent man who had a passion for protecting the laborer's plight. In the early 1900s, the rights of workers and the conditions of laborers were huge issues in America, especially after the Industrial Revolution brought harsh factory conditions, long hours, and low wages. Catholic priests and scholars often got involved in these debates because the church was deeply concerned with the welfare of the working class. And this was especially after Pope Leo XIII in 1891 called for the protection of workers and moral labor practices in what is called the Rerum Novarum. And that was a groundbreaking letter defending the rights of workers during the chaos of the Industrial Revolution. He called for fair wages, better conditions, and the right to form unions, while warning against both unchecked capitalism and socialism. It marked the Catholic Church's first major stand on social injustice, and it ended up shaping Catholic teaching and activism for decades to come. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
So Father Theophilus took an interest in the conflict between the Socialist Party and the American Federation of Labor, and even took a course in socialism at Fordham University in New York prior to moving to Wisconsin. It was around this time that Father Theophilus simultaneously developed an extreme interest in working with victims of demonic possession. All of these passions combined and caused him to have a falling out with the diocesan authorities in 1912, which is what prompted him to relocate to the Midwest to St. Anthony's Church for the next 30 years. And that's how he wound up in Anna's orbit. He began to work on local community-focused missionary activities, including exorcisms. Now, papal records in the Vatican indicate that Father Theophilus carried out Anna's first exorcism on June 18, 1912. She was 30 years old by that point and had been suffering from demonic possession for 16 years. And over the course of that 16-year possessed period, Anna reportedly consulted with some of the best medical specialists in the area. And the unanimous conclusion amongst them was that she did not exhibit symptoms of quote-unquote nervousness, nor was she suffering from hallucinations, hysteria, or nervous spells. There were no signs of any physical illness. So as the years dragged on with no clear medical explanation, the only remaining explanation at the time seemed to be supernatural. Thus, she turned to the church for help. Now, to formally diagnose demonic possession within the framework of the Roman Catholic Church, several strict conditions must be met to ensure that it's a genuine possession versus mental and/or physical illness. But before we discuss that, Tank, pop quiz, hotshot.
Yeah.
In what year did the Vatican officially issue guidelines for performing exorcisms? A, 1949, B, 1999, C, 2006.
Oh my God. 1949, 1999, or 2006?
Yeah.
2006.
No.
1949?
Nope.
Well, then it must be the other one.
I swung and you missed, but yes.
1999, right before the millennium closeout. Good, just
Right.
in case anything got lost with the Y2K bug.
Exactly.
Very good.
God, that was a crazy time to be alive. I thought we were all going to die.
You did?
Y2K? Yeah, because I thought all computers were going to crash. And basically the world was going to short circuit and it would just be downhill from there. Like I didn't think an immediate extinction was going to occur, but I thought it was the beginning of the end.
Yeah.
I kind of hoped it was.
That's another thing. But yeah, I just remember hearing early on in that whole like frenzy, literally nothing is going to happen. It's just going to reset. There was this idea that he had only programmed 2 digits of the year. So when it went from 99 to 0, it was going to think it was 1900 and all of it. Like,
yeah.
What?
Well, you were, older than me then. So maybe a little bit wiser. With age comes wisdom.
Yeah, probably.
And you are older than me. I will repeat. Okay.
Yeah, like 18 months.
Something like that.
But
it's still older, man. According to my research, there are 7 criteria for diagnosing demonic possession, which are as follows. 1, demonstrating aversion to sacred objects, such as crucifixes, holy water, and churches. And remember, Anna said that she could not walk into a church. 2, speaking, writing, and or understanding unknown languages, a term known as, do you remember? We talked about this in our other exorcism. Actually, no, we didn't talk about it in our exorcism case. We talked about it in Prayed to Death.
Yeah, I don't remember the name of it.
Xenoglossy.
Oh, yeah.
Which is like speaking in tongues.
Yep.
3, exhibiting supernatural/superhuman strength. 4, demonstrating knowledge of events, facts, or details that the individual could not possibly know through normal means. 5, experiencing a change in voice and appearance, which is terrifying. 6, experiencing unexplained physical phenomena, such as objects moving on their own or physical marks appearing on the person's body without a known cause. And 7, experiencing drastic changes in behavior and or personality, often including aggression, violence, or profound despair.
Those are all pretty,
I feel like I have all of that in one day.
No, you don't.
Maybe not speaking in tongues, although you should hear how I talk to Cash.
Or marks showing up on your body, or your voice changing, or knowing things that you shouldn't know. No, those are fucked up things to happen to a human being.
Okay, fine, you're right.
You want to be possessed by a demon so bad.
Listen, maybe that's what's missing here in the puzzle that is my inability to wrap my head around religion. Maybe I need to experience it. And I'm a dark person, so maybe this is what I need.
So one of the most faith-oriented guys I know listens, not exclusively, but he's listened to quite a few exorcism podcasts over the last 2 years. It's very hard to come away from that thinking, yeah, we're born and we die. There's nothing else. Very difficult, which is why when you said this was an exorcism, I was like, nice.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Hear about this.
And it's tough too, when we're going to get into obviously momentarily here, exactly what she experienced, Anna, during her possession and during her exorcism. And when you hear all of these people who allegedly, supposedly experienced it with her and witnessed it firsthand, it's hard to completely, thumb your nose at it.
Yeah.
I mean, I still do, but it gives me pause. It gives me pause.
You're an agnostic, right? Not an atheist?
Remind me the difference?
Atheist claims proof of non-existence of God. Agnostic says, I don't know. Agnostic means basically without knowledge.
Yes.
Like ignorance.
Very much that.
Okay.
And a desire to want to arrive because I see the peace and the comfort that it brings people, that religion and spirituality can bring. So I'm open to it, but I absolutely am nowhere close to being there.
I think that's a big piece of your issue is thinking that you're going to arrive somehow.
I know. I know you say that to me, right? You're what are you waiting for? The sea to part so you can walk through it? There's no one big event, typically.
Did I ever tell you? I think I've told you this story before, but it bears repeating for our listeners and for myself. There's a guy who's just about ready to end it all. Can't take anymore. He goes out into a field, lamenting, crying, writhing on the floor. He's just in so much pain. And then in a flash, he goes, let me just give this one more shot. And he looks up to the sky and he said, God, if you're real, please give me a sign. And 2 seconds later, this giant illuminating fireball rips across the sky in slow motion. It illuminates the sky for like 30 seconds. He sees that, takes another beat, and then goes, God, if that was a sign, give me a sign.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's just not, it's enough when you say it's enough.
Oh. But
You know?
then how do you intellectually...
It's not intellectual.
But
It's totally different.
I know, but what does that tell you about faith if you have to suspend your intellect?
It has nothing to do with intellect. It's like someone who's really great at design can't cook. They're two different, there's tons of different intelligences. There's spatial, there's mathematical, mechanical, creative, emotional. Like, I'm just naming a few. There's way more than that. Being emotionally intelligent doesn't mean you're going to be able to take a car apart and put it back together.
Mm-hmm. That's
Two
true.
very different things, you know?
That's true. So in terms of diagnosing demonic possession, the subject must undergo medical and psychological evaluations to rule out any physical or mental illnesses. Additionally, witness testimonies and observations by family members, clergy, and or medical professionals are to be taken into account as well. Stop laughing at me. Stop laughing at me. You try reading 1 billion words an episode and see how you do.
Professional. I'm not going to go any further into that.
You better not, or I'm not coming back. And lastly, a formal investigation is typically conducted by a trained exorcist, often involving prayer, rituals, and other religious assessments. In fact, the Vatican requires that each diocese have a specially trained priest who is able to diagnose demonic possession and perform exorcisms when necessary. That said, PQ.
Let's go.
As of 2023, how many priests in the U.S. have been formally trained exorcists? I think you know what I meant to say.
Right, close enough. Spit the demon out.
Oh, my turn. A, 27. B, 89. C, 175.
A.
No.
C?
Yes. 175.
Wow.
According to Father Vincent P. Lampert, who's a Catholic priest and the designated exorcist of the Roman Catholic Archdiocese of Indianapolis, out of, say, 5,000 cases of people purporting to be under demonic possession, about one person actually is. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
Now, you may be wondering how Anna eventually went on to endure a 23-day exorcism if Father Theophilus exorcised the demon the first time when she was 30 years old. Well, apparently Anna's aunt, Mina the Mean Witch, while cursing Anna during childhood, called upon the devil's aid to ensure that Anna would suffer the torment of being repossessed after any exorcism she might endure throughout her life.
Not cool, Mina.
Plus, apparently, it's not uncommon, as I mentioned at the top of the episode, for a single exorcism to require multiple sessions. And it was believed, based on biblical teachings from Matthew 12:43, that if a demon is expelled but allowed to return, it will bring, quote, 7 stronger than him. So as a result, any new possession would be far more difficult, if not impossible, to overcome through exorcism. But regardless of the difficult task ahead, Father Theophilus began the exorcism process once again. And this is actually where the book Begone Satan begins and recounts the exchange between Father Theophilus and his close friend, Father Joseph Steiger, a parish priest in the town which is now forever linked to this possession, which was Earling, Iowa, because they moved. Originally, Father Theophilus had hoped that by removing Anna from her hometown in Marathon, Wisconsin, and bringing her there, that the rituals of the exorcism could be carried out in secrecy, untouched by outside prying eyes. But from the very moment the opening prayers were spoken, it was clear that privacy would be the least of their concerns.
Yeah.
It was decided that a nearby convent run by Franciscan nuns would be used as the location for the exorcism with the approval of the Mother Superior, which was swiftly granted. Once Anna was brought to this new location, bizarre events began happening almost instantaneously. The nuns, in their customary manner, attempted to offer Anna food already blessed as part of their daily rituals. And when they did that, something strange happened. Anna immediately sensed that the food had been blessed. She instantly recoiled in disgust and hissed like a cat as a violent aversion overtook her, refusing to eat anything that had been blessed. As a result, only unblessed food could be prepared for Anna, which was believed to have been a strong indicator of the unholy forces at play. Now, before we get into exactly what happened during Anna's exorcism, let's first take a look at who or what was believed to have been possessing her in the first place. Like the case of Annalise Michel, which we covered in our Exorcised to Death case, which is episode 73, Anna was possessed by several supernatural and deceased human beings, including the following: Jacob, her father; Mina, her mean witch / her father's mistress; and Judas Iscariot. Now, these were the human beings that were believed to be possessing her. And the supernatural beings were Lucifer, Beelzebub, and several other lesser demons. Do you know who Beelzebub is?
That's Lucifer. It's the same person, different name.
Depends. So that's kind of how like modern day sources present Beelzebub. But originally, Beelzebub comes from the Philistine god Baal, worshipped in the ancient city of Ekron. His name likely meant Lord of the High Place or Lord Baal. In the Bible, Hebrew texts mockingly twisted it into Baal-zebub, meaning Lord of the Flies, basically a diss, suggesting he was the god of rot, filth, and decay. In Christianity, over time, Beelzebub got demonized, literally into one of the 7 princes of hell, second only to Satan himself in evil authority. But sometimes he is portrayed as Satan. Sometimes he's portrayed as his second in command.
Wait, 7 princes of hell? Oh, like the 7 deadly sins.
Yeah.
So you have Lucifer, who's got pride.
Yes.
Mammon, who's got greed. Asmodeus, who has lust. Leviathan, envy. Beelzebub, gluttony. That's my kind of guy. Satan, wrath. And Belphegor, sloth. Interesting.
Yeah. In pop culture, Beelzebub's been depicted as everything from a giant fly to a cunning manipulator to a bloated demon king feasting on human corruption. No matter how you slice it, if he winds up taking over your mind, body, and soul, it ain't great.
It's not good.
Now, each of the demons possessing Anna had a distinct role and played a very specific part in her possession. For example, Judas was there to tempt Anna into committing the unforgivable act of suicide. Jacob, damned to hell, and by the way, obviously, unforgivable is not my term. I'm just saying, in the context of this case, it's deemed unforgivable. Jacob, damned to hell for the unspeakable abuse he inflicted upon Anna, cursed her to be relentlessly tormented by demons, knowing full well that she would fight against the suffering that was being forced upon her. In death, Jacob's twisted role wasn't over. It just evolved. No longer able to violate her physically in the earthly realm, he sought instead to possess her soul, trapping her in an endless cycle of degradation and agony, just as he had in life. Mina, likewise, condemned to hell, faced damnation not only for poisoning Anna with cursed herbs, but also for practicing dark magic and terminating 4 pregnancies while she was on earth, an act that was considered so reviled that religious circles branded her a child killer, a title that she carried into the afterlife like a scarlet letter burned into her soul. Amongst the damned, it was said that Mina and Judas were the worst offenders against the Blessed Sacrament. They were relentless in their attempts to defile and destroy the holy, driven by an insatiable desire to corrupt what was sacred. To manipulate or mutilate the sacrament was the ultimate reflection of everything they had tried to destroy in life, a deliberate, vile act meant to align them with the deepest, most diabolical forces. It was a sinister effort to taint anything pure, to stain the divine with their depravity. Now, let's get into exactly what Anna experienced during her 23 in total day exorcism.
So what is, when you say 23 in total day, did she have like, I don't understand the...
They weren't consecutive. So I give you the dates in a moment. Let's say it was 1 week was her first exorcism. Her second exorcism was 3 days. Then there'd be a break and then they'd pick it up again. Well, I have a pop quiz for you to bring you back into this case.
Good.
Pop quiz. What substance will an exorcist priest often use during exorcisms to ward off evil?
Okay.
A, salt. B, vinegar. C, sacred chrism.
Sacred what?
CHRISM.
I know. I just wanted you to say it again.
Oh,
not
why?
spell
Did I
it.
say it incorrectly?
No, it just sounds funny.
It's the oil.
I don't know. I have no idea how you say chrism, but I'm going to incorporate that into my life.
Cool.
So, salt, vinegar,
Or potato chips.
chips. I will tell you one thing. You have too many of those, your mouth is in hell.
Oh, yeah. The sides of your mouth are cracking. Bad.
Oh, it's bad. You better get the nipple cream out. Okay, let's just say B, vinegar.
No. When is vinegar ever used? You don't know?
How the fuck am I supposed to know? Like, I'm
Sorry.
the exorcism material inventory expert.
I thought, honestly, for real,
Yeah.
I was like, why even bother doing pop quizzes in this episode for Tank? Like, he
Honestly.
knows this shit. Like, he knows,
no.
like, you went to Catholic school. You know, you're spiritual. You're going to ace every single pop quiz. This is more for our listeners. And you have, I think, gotten every single one wrong.
Yeah. Like Tony just said, he went to church and spilled chrism everywhere. That's what I thought. Oh, I'm going to chrism.
What?
You know, like chrism just sounds like jism.
Oh,
Sorry.
shut up, you freak. Oh, my God.
That didn't occur to you? That was the first thing I thought of.
No, and my mind is always in the gutter, too. And no, my mind did not go there.
Okay.
I'm Chris.
Let's go with sacred chrism.
Yeah, no, that's not it either. Salt. How do I know this?
I didn't realize we were trying to exercise fucking slugs out of Anna Ecklund. How important the salt would be in this tomato sauce making fucking exorcism. Salt to taste. I use Celtic salt, so it's good.
Himalayan salt, thank you very
Himalayan
much.
salt, yeah. All these different salts with different benefits.
I just use big grain salt so I can really taste it. That's my only requirement for salt. I like it crunchy.
That is psychotic.
Yeah, well, who are you talking to right now?
Big grain salt, first of all.
I'm going to incorporate that in my Am I a Psycho video series.
It's like you're talking about bullets. Big grain, buckshot.
Salt is frequently used in exorcisms. Now you know, especially in the Catholic Church, and comes from ancient rituals where salt was believed to ward off evil spirits and demons. It's like considered a purifying agent, all right? And it symbolizes the preservation of the soul. Exorcists may sprinkle salt in a room, use it to mark doorways, or even place it on the person being exorcised. The most detailed account of Anna Ecklund's 1928 exorcism, which is what I mentioned already, came from a pamphlet. It was a pamphlet at the time, written a few years after the events and then later translated into a book, which I read. According to that record or that account, what happened to Anna over the course of her 23-day exorcism wasn't just a battle for her soul. It was a full-scale war.
Yeah.
First of all, Father Theophilus quickly determined that the exorcism would be a lengthy process that would require multiple attempts or sessions. The first attempt stretched across 8 relentless days from August 18th to August 26th. Anna lay strapped to a bed with iron springs as Father Theophilus, alongside the local parish priest I mentioned earlier, Father Joseph Steiger, began invoking the Holy Trinity. And that's when it happened. From a crouched position, Anna reportedly launched into the air, her body flung like a rag doll before slamming against the wall high above the doorway, gripping it with an unnatural, bone-white force. A piercing, shrill voice shattered the silence, distant and echoing, yet unmistakably pouring from Anna's own throat. Moments later, the sounds of wild beasts tore from her mouth, a chaos of roaring lions, hyenas, snarling dogs, mewling cats, and bellowing cattle, all pouring from a single tormented human body.
I'd like to see an exorcism.
You know what? I would not want to see one.
I want to see when they describe her as jumping or leaping from a crouched position, slamming against the door or wall or whatever. I wonder, like, because when you say it, it's like what I envision is crazy.
I think it was, Tank.
But what if she just like jumped a little bit, like 6 inches off the ground and like bumped into the wall.
It's like a game of telephone. It just gets embellished.
She fucking slammed into the wall, dude. No,
Well,
I bumped into it at best.
Right. I mean, that's for you to determine, right? Like, this is supposedly relayed from people who were actually there.
God, I don't want to see an exorcism, actually. Forget that.
Many people contributing to the creation of this pamphlet turned book. Consistent stories across the board.
Can you imagine if you got exorcised and they turned it into a pamphlet instead of a book right away? Like, it's a couple, 7, 8 pages, whatever. Like, I don't know.
I think printing presses were what they were what they were back then. It was like easier to make a pamphlet than like a bound book.
Of course.
Yeah. So what do you mean?
Yeah, I just think it's funny. It diminishes the entire experience. Like, you turn my fucking life or death ordeal into a pamphlet.
Don't worry, Anna. It's 2025 and we are still talking about it.
Yes, we are. Is she still alive or no? She didn't survive the exorcism?
I'm going to keep going. As Father Vogel would later record in Begone Satan, the sounds coming from her were so visceral that they seemed to rattle the marrow of the priest's bones. Word at this point spread like wildfire. Local villagers crept toward the convent, drawn by the unholy symphony, inhuman howling, and an overwhelming stench so foul that it leaked through the windows and seeped into the streets like a curse that no one, least of all Anna, could outrun.
Oh my God.
After Father Theophilus sprinkled holy water over Anna, her body convulsed into a grotesque, inhuman shape, twisting, swelling, distorting until it looked like she might physically rupture. Her head reportedly elongated, stretching into something almost unrecognizable. It took 6 strong, and this is how it's described in the pamphlet,
she inhaled a Subway sandwich in one breath.
Listen, it took 6 strong, athletic nuns to hold her down as she unleashed torrents of blasphemous venom, spewing vile curses with a force that seemed to defy nature itself. Me love the image of athletic nuns.
And we know nuns are known for their athleticism.
That's what I'm saying.
So.
Fantastic. Y'all had 6 of them.
Yeah.
It's like a football team. Like, very interesting visual.
Bunch of softball players, probably.
Wrestlers, I thought, or rugby. So these curses that she was spewing didn't stop after a few moments. It dragged on for days, relentless and punishing as the spirits inside her began revealing themselves one by one. Even when Anna's body collapsed into unconsciousness, the voices kept coming, sneering, mocking, vomiting insults at the priests, not from her mouth, but deep from her throat.
I thought you were going to say from her butt.
It could have been. Her lips never moved. Her face stayed still, but the hatred poured out anyway, as if the very air around her had become possessed.
Her lips never moved?
Allegedly not. The second exorcism began on September 13th and dragged on until the 20th. It was during this brutal session that Father Theophilus managed to force more confessions out of the demons that were tormenting Anna, and he learned details about who they were and what they wanted. Now, we touched upon this earlier when we talked about which human/supernatural beings were actually possessing Anna. But here's where the dialogue gets specific and deeply disturbing. When Father Theophilus demanded that Judas state his purpose, the demon allegedly sneered, quote,
"To drive her to despair, to make her hang herself, she must get the rope. She must come to hell."
When Beelzebub was interrogated, he revealed in fractured foreign tongues that he possessed Anna since she was 14 years old. Worse, he claimed that he was acting under Satan's direct orders, an unholy mission set in motion by Anna's own father, Jacob, who, furious at her resistance to his sexual abuse when he was alive, cursed her and consigned her soul to hell through demonic possession.
Dick.
During this session, Anna vomited dozens of times a day, spat, drooled, and expelled inhuman quantities of fluids and solids despite eating almost nothing.
Wow.
It was reported that she urinated enough liquid to fill buckets and retched up bizarre, inexplicable substances, including tobacco leaves, straw, and gritty debris that resembled ground spices, none of which she had ever consumed. I was thinking maybe the spices was some kind of throwback to Mina and her cursing spices and putting those spices in Anna's food. But I have nothing on the tobacco leaves or straw, so...
Well, you're talking about in a supernatural way, because obviously she wasn't eating herbs before the exorcism.
No, but Mina was poisoning her food, allegedly.
But a long time ago.
A long, long time ago. But I was saying it was some kind of full circle moment, if you will.
But supernatural in nature. Yeah.
At times, Anna's lips reportedly swelled grotesquely, growing to the size of hands, while the rest of her body withered into a skeletal, almost translucent frame. When she lay in bed, her weight would also inexplicably surge, so much so that the mattress would sag and the iron bed frame warped and twisted under the strain, as if crushed by something far heavier than human. Pop quiz.
Let's go.
What is the term used to describe this phenomenon, this weight discrepancy?
Okay.
A, dark pressure. B, spiritual density. C, possessed gravity.
B.
No.
The fuck, dude? Really sucking.
It's okay.
C.
Yes. Possessed gravity is when the possessed person becomes physically immovable, or those around the possessed are weighted down with a suffocating pressure. Throughout Anna's possession and exorcism, she spoke fluently in multiple languages that she'd never learned and revealed knowledge of hidden things that no human should have known. Remember, these are some of the actual written signs of being truly possessed. Roughly 2 months later, the third and final exorcism began, lasting from December 15th to the 22nd.
A quick question.
Yeah.
You're doing the math?
Yeah.
It's like 21 days?
Something like that.
How is she doing in between exorcisms?
I think she's eating, like she's doing enough to stay alive. She's not functioning. She's not going to work. She's not hanging out with her homies. She's alive. She's in the convent with the nuns. I think they're caring for her.
Oh, okay.
And they're prepping her for her next session. It's like being off season as an athlete. You know what I mean? You're not like performing, but you're like also not performing. During this final assault, really, / exorcism, Anna taunted the priests and nuns by reciting in chilling detail sins that they had all committed in their childhoods.
Oh my God.
Sins that they believed were long buried.
Oh my God.
Listen to this. She also issued a very grim prophecy warning that Father Steiger would soon fall victim to a devastating car crash. A message meant to scare him away from what he was doing. A demon sneered through Anna's body, hissing, quote,
I cannot harm God directly, but I can touch you and his church. Just wait until Friday.
And sure enough, just days later on Friday, whilst driving along a rural road, the steering on Father Steiger's car suddenly failed without warning. His vehicle veered uncontrollably off-road, hurtling into a ditch and smashing into a tree with brutal force. Miraculously, Father Steiger survived with minor injuries, though witnesses would later claim it was nothing short of divine protection. Still, the message was clear. The darkness inside Anna was not bluffing, and it wasn't done trying to destroy anyone who stood in its way. Swarms of flies and mosquitoes would erupt around Anna, blackening the air, only to vanish seconds later as if swallowed back into whatever unforeseen force had unleashed them. But perhaps most eerily, Anna's case remains the only documented exorcism where the priests themselves experienced a vivid, waking vision through what they described as a sixth sense. Without breaking from the ritual, Father Theophilus reportedly saw Lucifer and Beelzebub manifest in the room during the final brutal half hour of the final exorcism session. In this vision, the walls of the convent seemed to catch fire, and Lucifer, a towering figure cloaked in matted black fur from the waist down, crowned in a mockery of kingship, stood seething in the corner, his eyes burning with pure hatred. He was bound, unable to strike, shackled by divine law. At his side loomed Beelzebub, smaller but equally malicious, his silent rage thickening the already suffocating air. Let it out, Tank.
It's
It's
not
me and
worth.
you, Satan and Beelzebub, big and little.
No, you just keep saying Beelzebub different ways every time you say it.
Oh. It's coming out of my mouth in some form, and for that, I'm proud.
You might be possessed.
For those present, this wasn't just a battle for Anna's soul anymore. It was open war, and the enemy had finally shown its face. Now, you may remember from the Annalise Michel case that we covered, again, the name of that episode is Exorcised to Death, that the priest who did the exorcism in that case, Father Alt, he was the one who oversaw Annalise's fatal exorcism, reported a series of terrifying experiences, right? The stench of burning excrement filling his apartment. He heard a relentless thudding from his closet that would keep him awake, and a strange physical phenomenon where he shivered from an intense cold while simultaneously sweating through his clothing. He said that his senses had become unnervingly sharp and that the colors were too vivid, the sounds were too piercing. He even experienced two powerful visions: Christ crucified and in agony whispering, "For you," and a woman holding a child bathed in radiant light echoing those same words, "For you." But in Father Theophilus's case during Anna Ecklund's exorcism, the supernatural didn't just tease at the edges of reality, it walked right into the room. Unlike Father Alt's visions or what he felt he was smelling, Father Theophilus reportedly saw Lucifer himself, towering, flesh and blood, burning with fury, standing just a few feet away from him. It's believed that Lucifer was physically present for nearly 2 full weeks of Anna Ecklund's possession. But then, on December 22nd, 1928, around 9 p.m., Anna suddenly jerked upright in bed, her body rigid, balanced impossibly on her heels as if something was about to yank her straight into the ceiling. Father Steiger shouted for the nuns to hold her down.
Is that funny?
I'm sorry, but there are these men in the room and they're like, "Nuns, we need the physical brute." It's an entertaining visual in my mind's fucked up eye.
It's men being men.
Yes.
It's like, honey, where's the ketchup?
What?
It's right fucking there, dude.
Yeah, but just picture these little old ladies flying into the room like the muscle behind the operation.
Does firefighter Dave do that to you?
Where's the ketchup? It's right in front of him.
Ask you where stuff is and it's like so obvious to you?
No, but both of my sons do it.
Yeah. There's times where I literally cannot locate the thing that I'm looking for. And Jessica walks over and just grabs it instantaneously. I'm like, when did you put that there?
Yeah, I wasn't here the second ago. I was looking for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I always say with my boys, look with your eyes.
Yeah.
If you're looking with your eyeballs, you can't miss it.
Well, what do you think we're looking with?
I couldn't tell you. Couldn't tell you. That's what's frightening because it's right fucking there. So Father Steiger shouted for the nuns to come in and hold her down while Father Theophilus stepped forward, blessing her and thundering the following words: "Depart, ye fiends of hell. Begone, Satan. The Lion of Judah reigns."
There's that book title.
Correct. Anna collapsed back into the mattress just as a deafening roar tore through the room. Beelzebub, Judas, Jacob, Mina. Then, over and over, hell, 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 the sound echoing and retreating as if being dragged into some unseen abyss. And when the chaos faded, Anna opened her eyes and smiled, tears streaking her face as she cried out, "My Jesus mercy, praised be Jesus Christ." And just like that, the nightmare was over.
Wow.
The stench of sulfur that had clung to the room for weeks, months, seemed to lift. The walls, once alive with something dark and writhing, finally fell still. The suffocating pressure cracked like a fever breaking, and for the first time in months, the convent felt like a place of the living once again. Anna lay there, hollowed out, but free. Her soul returned to her trembling body. Anna Ecklund is believed to have gone on to live a quiet, demon-free life from that point forward. She continued practicing her faith, owning little beyond a few humble possessions, and even returned to the convent 4 months later to thank the nuns. She was radiant, healthy, and full of gratitude. The nuns, sadly, were not so lucky. One by one, they all transferred out of that convent, unable to stay in a place that had, for a time, become a prison of screams, shadows, and things that none of them could unsee.
Yeah.
Beyond the 2 priests and the team of athletic nuns who endured the full 23-day ordeal, others also claim to have witnessed Anna's possession firsthand. Father Steiger's housekeeper, Teresa Wegnerer, gave chilling testimony about what she saw. Several other nuns, of course, abandoned the convent altogether before the exorcism was even done. They testified that this actually happened. Not testified in court, like they gave confirming accounts of what they saw. Even a local man who lived in Earling at the time later passed down his account to his granddaughter, describing the same unearthly sounds and foul sulfurous stench reported by all these other people.
The sulfur was a part of the other exorcism we talked
It
about
was
too,
the
right?
smell of it, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's something.
Have you ever smelled like sulfur in large quantities?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I don't know what large quantities.
Well, the Dead
is.
Sea. Like I went to the Dead Sea.
No.
The smell,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, nauseating.
Really? You never hear that about the Dead Sea.
I know. Your skin is fabulous, so it's worth it when you come out. But like
Yeah.
the stench is bad.
Interesting.
To this day, Anna Ecklund's case remains one of the most heavily documented exorcisms ever sanctioned by the Catholic Church. So, all of this said, what the hell really happened here?
Nice.
For skeptics or non-believers, Anna's symptoms could be interpreted as the result of past sexual trauma and/or perhaps a severe mental illness such as schizophrenia, a disorder that shares many symptoms with what is traditionally thought to be possession. Hallucinations, delusions, and disassociation, common in conditions like schizophrenia, could easily be mistaken for demonic activity by those who are already inclined to believe in such phenomena. Furthermore, it's possible that the religious figures present during the exorcism experienced what they did through the lens of their deep faith, guided by their unshakable belief in angels, demons, and spiritual warfare. To them, the sights, sounds, and smells that they reported were not mere products of psychological distress or suggestion, but rather tangible evidence of a real spiritual battle unfolding before their eyes. This is exactly what you talked about already earlier, right?
Yeah.
Like, you call it what you call it, I call it what I call it, but there is something being experienced.
Yeah, it doesn't change what's happening.
Right. It's just the lens you're looking at it through.
Yeah.
So I wasn't sure where to place this next bit in this episode, but I started to feel and think in this way, Tank, and I think you'll be able to contribute. So I put it here in the episode. I don't know if this is the right place for it, but here we go. I started to feel like there were parallels between perceived demonic possession and addiction. Okay?
Yeah.
So I looked into it. In medieval times, drunkenness, that's like the term that was used, drunkenness, addiction to alcohol, whatever, itself was sometimes described as a, quote, form of temporary possession by demons of excess and gluttony.
Yeah.
Many psychiatrists and psychologists, especially those studying religious phenomena, have long pointed out that symptoms of possession, like feeling controlled by an external force, loss of self-agency, compulsive behavior, mirror those of substance addiction. In both cases, people often describe themselves as being taken over, powerless, doing things that they hate but cannot stop. Alcoholics Anonymous and other 12-step programs have long framed addiction as a spiritual disease.
Yeah.
A kind of possession. Bill Wilson, the co-founder of AA, has talked openly about addiction feeling like a soul sickness, requiring a spiritual awakening to heal. Almost exactly how religious possessions are, quote unquote, cured through exorcism. When I was reading up about what Anna was experiencing during her possession, right? Like she was experiencing these things that she clearly did not want to. They weren't pleasant. They were harming her and she couldn't stop. And in my mind, I'm like, oh man, that's exactly how addiction sounds to me. Repeating this behavior over and over again, feeling like you have no will to stop it or to control it. And it's harming you.
The lack of self-agency is the worst part
Yeah.
of addiction. It's like you wake up, I'm not going to drink today. And you really think that. Like that is the truth in you at that time. And then something takes over. And that's interesting. I've never thought about that before in those exact terms. Obviously, the whole point of the book is to help you develop a relationship with a higher power that can help you with this problem that you're powerless over. But I prayed to a God that I had zero understanding of, zero relationship. I was atheist leaning, agnostic. I just thought anybody who believed in God was just like a fucking idiot, immature, naive, childish, hopeful, whatever, all those things. And then I got on my knees.
Then you hit rock bottom.
And begged a God that I, like I said, had no relationship with to remove the obsession from me. Not to help me stop doing drugs, not to help me not drink, but just remove the obsession from me so I can have a chance at living a normal life. And that obsession has not come back for over 22 years. I've had thoughts and passing little kind of like, oof. Like if I think about drinking, it's only in the sense of like, God, that would be terrible if I drank.
Right.
Not I want to drink. There's never any intention behind it.
Yeah.
But it is interesting to think that I called on a higher power to help me rid myself of a lower power. And because the prayer was sincere, it worked.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But there is something about that for sure.
Yeah. And just, again, addiction itself, sort of having this parallel in terms of like the experience itself of addiction to being possessed.
Yeah, the only difference is that it doesn't manifest any other way. I never spoke a different language. I never...
Yeah, that's true. But you became unrecognizable. You behaved in a way that was not you.
But that's as a result of the substance.
Well, this was as a result of the demon.
Yeah, but the obsession was where I suffered. And then once the effects of the alcohol took over, I don't know if I can say that's a possession. It was more like I'm just a walking human representation of what alcohol does to a human mind and body.
Yeah.
If I started doing crazy things like that, saying crazy shit, disrespecting people, ruining relationships sober, that would be a different story.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, by the way, I'm not saying the same addiction and demonic possession are the same thing. Obviously.
Something there.
But when consistently during my research, I was like, this just reminds me of how addiction has been described to me. I don't suffer from addiction, so I don't know.
Yeah.
So I thought it'd be interesting to talk about it with you.
There's this idea, I heard somebody say it the other day, just to reinforce it, that he was trying to stop drinking. He was trying so hard. Everything. He was throwing everything at it. And then he heard somebody say that sobriety is based on the maintenance of your spiritual condition. So if you keep yourself in line, every which way you have control over and you can contribute to and meaningfully move the needle in your life spiritually / emotionally / intellectually / whatever other words you want to use, then drinking it doesn't creep in the same way when you're filling your life with fulfilling things.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
In the end, Anna Ecklund's story leaves us standing at the uneasy crossroads. I think it's uneasy. Crossroads of faith, trauma, and the human need to just make sense of suffering.
Yeah.
Whether you believe she was the battleground for supernatural forces or a tragic soul crushed by the weight of earthly horrors, one thing is clear. Anna fought a war most of us could scarcely imagine, and she survived. Her 23-day ordeal wasn't just a struggle against demons, if that's what you believe. It was a raw, brutal testament to the resilience of a spirit that refused to break. Whether spiritually, right, or literally break. She wasn't eating, Long after the rituals ended and the church doors closed, the echoes of her battle still haunt the spaces between belief and reality, forcing us to ask, when the darkness comes, can/should we call it evil, or can/should we recognize it as something earthly, yet just as monstrous? Abuse, repression, untreated trauma. Whether one views Anna's ordeal as a case of genuine possession or as the disturbing consequences of untreated psychological conditions, The story of her exorcism continues to remain a very dark chapter in history, leaving a lingering sense of fear that still resonates today. So much so that when I got wind of this case, we covered it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that is the case.
Well, just to add one more thing, there's also this idea that alcohol is referred to as spirits, which is maybe a little bit of a nod to the worldly or material entry point for something to possess you. Like maybe it weakens the barrier or something.
Well, that's what Bill Wilson, the co-founder of AA, said. It's like a soul sickness, and that you need to have a spiritual awakening in order to heal.
Yeah.
So,
Well, that was, I don't know. I don't want to say it was fun to listen to, but it was interesting.
I thought it was interesting. This whole topic, anything with spirituality and religion fascinates me because of my complete disconnect with the subject. But also exorcisms are creepy, whether you believe or not.
I don't think there's anything to believe or not here. It's like you believe your eyes and ears, or you talk yourself out of it and do mental gymnastics to say, yeah, it must be something else. God, give me a sign if that was a sign, type of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I don't know if I believe that she flew up on the ceiling and spoke.
Excuse me?
She and I had different flying experiences. Don't even.
Excuse me?
But I know what you're going to say, and there is something there.
No,
Why do I believe that I flew, but I can't believe that all of this stuff happened to Anna?
I was not going to say that.
Oh.
I was going to say, if somebody's body is contorting in a way that is not human, and they are speaking in a voice that is not theirs, in a language that they do not understand.
I know. I kind of believe it
really
now.
Nothing else makes any sense.
I think we've talked about this before. I believe in like the dark side of religion. I do kind of believe this shit.
You believe in evil.
Exactly. And yet I don't know that I believe in the miracles. It's crazy.
You've never experienced a miracle in your own life?
If I did, I don't believe it's because of God. I just think it's fucking awesome that it happened.
So you write off God moments as coincidences?
Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yet
That's all right.
I can finish this case and on one hand, like intellectually be like, this just did not happen. But also in my heart be like, holy shit, like I feel like this happened.
Well, like I've said, whether it is God, a timeless, spaceless form, I don't even know if form is the right word, that created this universe for us to live in and for him to experience the material realm, or it's a guy named Jim playing a computer game like, hey, Jim, you're my God.
A simulation?
Yeah, you're my God, Jim. I'm praying to you. I hope that you give me a nice life and thank you for everything so far that you've done for me.
Jim Halpern was our God.
I mean, it's not that far off.
I'd be at my knees. Sorry.
But to me, it doesn't matter. Whoa, excuse me?
That just came out. I was possessed. Excuse me.
Yeah. Oh my God. Jim looks at the camera hard.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't think it matters. I'm not concerned with like, I'll find out or I won't. Either way, I will.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's this great story. My mom just sent it to me and somebody else was just talking about it. Can I just read this to you for a second?
Of course.
In a mother's womb, there were 2 babies.
Stop.
Wow, what a coincidence.
Oh my God. I need you to stop. I can't. I think I might need a break. I'm not even kidding you. I can't even tell you. Okay. All right. Okay. When you needed a little bit of time off, I went to a funeral, which I didn't even tell you about. My friend's mother died.
Yeah. Sorry to hear that.
Thank you. And there was one speech given at the funeral. And it was the identical twins in the mother's womb. And they're like, I hear mom's voice. When we come out, that's when life begins. And the other one inside the womb was like, no, there's nothing past this. This is it. Like here and now, this is it. I wanted to call you so badly to talk about that because that hit me in a way that nothing else hitherto, ever has. I can't believe you were just going to read that. I have been meaning to talk to you about this for so long.
Well, I think I'd still like to read it
Read
for the
it
people
for-
who
yes,
who
yes.
have no idea what we're talking about. And we'll get to the titty in like I said, like 3 minutes.
It's worth it, you guys.
So in a mother's womb were two babies. One asked the other, "Do you believe in life after delivery?" The other replied, "Why, of course, there has to be something after delivery. Maybe we are here to prepare ourselves for what will be later." "Nonsense," said the first. "There is no life after delivery. What kind of life would that be?" The second said, "I don't know, but there will be more light than here. Maybe we will walk with our legs and eat from our mouths. Maybe we will have other senses that we can't understand right now."
I'm gonna cry. I'm gonna cry. This gets me. Keep going.
The first replied, "That is absurd. Walking is impossible, and eating with our mouths, ridiculous. The umbilical cord supplies nutrition and everything we need, but the umbilical cord is so short. Life after delivery is to be logically excluded." The second insisted, "Well, I think there is something, and maybe it's different than it is here. Maybe we won't need this physical cord anymore." The first replied, "Nonsense. And moreover, if there is a life, then why has no one ever come back from here? Delivery is the end of life, and in the after delivery, there is nothing but darkness and silence and oblivion. It takes us nowhere." "Well, I don't know," said the second, "but certainly we will meet Mother and she will take care of us." The first replied, "Mother? You actually believe in Mother? That's laughable. If Mother exists, then where is she now?" The second said, "She's all around us. We are surrounded by her. We are of her. It is in her that we live. Without her, this world could not and would not exist." Said the first, "Well, I don't see her, so it is only logical that she doesn't exist." To which the second replied, "Sometimes when you're in silence and you focus and you really listen, you can perceive her presence and you can hear her loving voice calling down from above." So any different way you want to think of it, like, I just can't believe that we came from nothing and we are nothing and we're going nowhere and none
Yeah.
of this matters. Like, that to me makes less sense than a big white guy in the sky with a beard watching me be a dick and getting mad at me for it and also being nice.
Right.
Like nothing from like,
Yeah.
I don't know, just doesn't make any sense
Well,
to me.
that story 100% rewired me for a little bit, for sure.
Good.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah. I mean, that could very well be the titty if we wanted to end on that.
I'm just going to give a quick titty,
Okay.
a little flash.
Yeah, you can go full frontal. That's fine. We got
Full
time.
Monty.
We got all the time in the world.
So it's just, last time I said this paradox that I like. There's another one that I like. So people have these escape coping mechanisms. Sometimes they're called, like I remember somebody calling character defects survival mechanisms, which I thought was very apropos, because these things that you develop as a child are kind of like just getting you through the chaos and sometimes the drama and, growing up in whatever kind of household you grew up in. But the more you escape, the more in prison you find yourself. So it's only when you stop trying to escape yourself that you finally become free.
Does that put you in a danger zone of not trying to work on yourself? If you're like, well,
No, I'm
this
not
is
talking
doing-
about that. I'm
Okay.
talking about like gambling or drinking
Okay.
or sex or money, spending your money or
Mhm.
any of those things. Anything that takes you out of who you are in the current moment, you try and escape to that. That escape, it's like you're escaping. It's like you're breaking into a prison. That's it. It's just like you put all of your happiness in this activity or substance. And the more you quote unquote escape from who you are, the more you wind up in prison.
Ah, it clicked.
Okay.
It clicked.
And if you can, like somebody who's in jail, let's say, has a spiritual experience or a spiritual awakening, and they realize that jail truly is a state of mind. And there are way more people imprisoned outside of jail than people in jail.
Mm,
Depends on what the prison is.
yeah.
Yeah, just like I've said before, like just reality right now for most people, I can't speak for everybody. I'm sure there are people going through horrific things right now in this moment. I mean, getting into a car crash, being abused, losing a loved one right now. Reality for most people is problem free. And I don't mean that you don't have bills, and I don't mean that this didn't happen in the past or this might not happen in the future, but that's not reality. That's fantasy. It's fantasy either way, past or future. So the more I stay in reality, people will say stay in the present moment or keep your head where your feet are or whatever. And I know what those all mean. Nothing affected me that way until somebody was like, I just try and stay in reality.
Yeah.
Because the reality is the present moment. The present moment I have a tough time with because it's always moving. It's like a moving target.
Yeah.
So if I get into the present moment, it's like, well, now I'm not. Fuck, I missed it. It just left. I'm like, the Spaceballs. When will then be now? Soon. So I just try and stay in reality, and there's nothing to escape from. And that's it.
I love it. Thank you.
That's my big heavy hanger.
Ew. Tighten the straps, man.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank
Well,
you.
thank you for doing all that work, all that hard work and that heavy lifting and that beautiful writing and prose and delivery through the allergies, through it all. Would never know if you didn't mention it.
Thank you
I'm
very,
serious.
very much. Thank you. I actually chose that case for you, to be honest, for so many reasons. First of all, I wanted to give you a not too brutal case on the heels of last week's case. You're welcome.
Thank you. Oh my God.
And
Welcome
also,
back.
I knew that just the overarching topics are ones that fascinate you and me. So
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah,
we got to
really-
do this one. So anyway, thank
get
you
my
for
brain
being
going.
the excellent co-host that you are. Again, it's amazing having you back. So if you guys are still here and you are with us, you guys are real ones.
Real ones.
The
All the way.
realist.
Well, I think that's it for this episode. And we will see you guys at the next one.
Thank you so much for listening. Bye.
Beelzebub.
You have to say it with me.
I already said Beelzebub. There's no, I can't
You
do
can say
better than that.
Beelzebub again. I said it 100 times.
I think this is the end.